Hello guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video is dedicated to one of my viewers that raised a comment on my previous video on how to calculate the value of a bond and coupon payments in Excel. What if in a situation where the bond also pays, in addition to the interest, also pays part of principal? How do we go ahead to calculate the amortization schedule, right? So this video is to take care of that question and to also show that I go through your comments and I respond to comments based on what you like to see in my next video. So this particular video is dedicated to that my subscriber, my viewer that has asked this question. All right, so let's go into details. So this is a typical bond usually issued by subnationals, that is by states governments, right? And one of the characteristics of these kind of bonds that they issue is that they also pay part of the principal in addition to the interest, right? So we'll have the details of this particular bond: principal of 4.85 billion pounds, right? And is issued at par, which means that the amount that was paid by the bondholders is the exact principal amount. The coupon rate for this bond is 15.75%. The date was allotted to bondholders was on the 5th of March 2018. Interest payment date, or the initial payment date, is 6 months from the allotment date. So, which means that it's payable semi-annually on every 5th of September and 5th of March each year, up to and including the maturity date. And it's going to last for 4.5 years, right? And the maturity date, of course, is on the 5th of September 2022. So that's the details of this bond. So to enable us to calculate the bond amortization schedule, we're going to complete these colored cells for the principal, what principal to use, what interest rate to use, the number of payments, to use the payment itself, which comprises of both the principal amount and the interest to be used in amortization schedule. Then the day counting between the payment dates, then actually the day count in the year, the actual day count in the year. All right. So these details will be completing them in the course of this video. Then also the Excel formulas that we'll be using is the PMT formula or function in Excel, which has the parameters, rate, number of payments, present value, future value is optional, and the type is optional for our use in this video. The other Excel formula to use is the eDate, which has just two parameters: the start date, which is the allotment date, and the number of months in between coupon payment is 6 months, which is the coupon frequency of semi-annually. All right, so I haven't done this. Let's complete our parameters to be used in the bond calculation schedule. So our principal will be the actual principal amount, which is the 4.85 billion. Then our rate, of course, is the coupon rate, no changes to that, 15.75%. Number of payments, right? So since we're paying semi-annually and we have 4.5 years, means the number of payments will be 4.5 multiplied by 2. So I'll come in here, say equals to 4.5 multiplied by 2, which means that we're receiving, or your company is going to receive, 9 times instrumental payment from the bond issuer. All right, so this point is very important to help you track your cash flows. And of course, the payment, what is the payment to receive, which also includes the principal amount and the interest amount, like I've indicated as part of step 4. All right, so to do that, I'll use the PMT formula, which is the equals to PMT. All right, open my bracket. I'll put in the rate. So mind you, this rate of 15.75 is an annual coupon rate, but because we're receiving a semi-annual coupon payment, we're going to divide the rate by 2. So I'll select the rate 15.75% divide by 2, right, to give me my rate semi-annually. Then comma, then the number of payments, which we've calculated to be 9 instrumental payments to be received in your bank account for your company. Select that in here, comma, then the present value, which is also the consideration, how much was paid by the bondholder. And we're told on the bond details that this bond was issued at par, which means that the amount that they paid was equal to the principal amount. All right, so select the principal amount, which is 4.85, right? Then comma. The future value, like I said, is optional, so I'll put in 0, comma. Then of course the type, which would be at the end of the period or beginning of the period. Most coupon payments and interest and principal payments are actually done at the end of the period, so I'll select 0. Then I'll close my brackets. Awesome. So we've calculated an amount of 772 million, right? Let me take out the zeros. So we'll have an amount of 772 million as payments. So these amounts comprise of both the principal amount and the interest amount. So because we are receiving this money into our company's bank account, I would like to change this negative sign to a positive. To do that, I'll just enter the negative sign in front of the present value amount, which is the principal, and that is represented by E2. This is E row 2. So in front of E2, I'll put the negative sign. So it changes the payment amount to be a positive, which will be an inflow into our bank account. All right, then the number of days in between payment dates, which is the day count, basically. So for a standard bond issued by Subnationals, is usually 180 days, right? 180 days. Then the day count for the period is 360 as against 365 or 366. So I'll put that in here. So the 180 days and the 360 days are going to be a very key input when we calculate our interest amount. So having determined step 1, which is the principal, step 2, step 3, number of payments, step 4, the actual payment of principal and interest, step 5 and step 6. Step 7 will be to then calculate our bond amortization schedule, which is what we have here. So I produced a shell to help us calculate the bond amortization period amounts, starting with the dates. We said we're going to receive payment for 9 dates. So how do we determine the 5th of September and the 5th of March every year up to maturity? We'll see how to do that. Then for the beginning balance is the formula to use, which is the ending balance from the previous payment date. Then the payment amount is from our PMT. So I can come in here and select equals to PMT. I can freeze this column F4 and drag down. So the amount is not changing. So this is what you get from the bond issuer, right? For the period that you that these payments are due. So to tell me what the periods are, so since we started with our allotment date, we're going to use the eDate function to determine the next period, which is 5th of September, and the other period, 5th of March, up until maturity. So I'll come in here, cell A14, and type equals to eDate. The starting date is the allotment date, comma, then the number of periods in months, which is 6 months. So I'll receive the next payment in 6 months. So this gives me the 5th of September, then I can easily drag down and give it up to the 5th of September, which agrees with our maturity date. All right, so you've gotten the periods correctly. So for each of these periods, these amounts will be paid into your bank account. So as an accountant for your company, for this particular payment date, kindly check the bank statement and see the inflow for these amounts. All right. So now, how do we determine the beginning balance? So the beginning balance, like I said, is the previous month brought forward. So I'll say equals to this amount, which is our initial ending balance of the principal amount, and I'll drag down. So it picks the previous balance from the brought forward balance from the previous payment dates up until maturity. All right. So we determine what the beginning balance is. We determine what our payment is. The next is to calculate what is the interest. So interest is very simple, right? Which is the ending balance of 4.850 multiplied by the coupon rate multiplied by 180 days divided by 360 days. Very simple formula to calculate. Let's do that now. Equals to our ending balance is 4.850 multiplied by our coupon rate, which is 15.75. I'm going to phrase this because I'll be needing it for the rest of the rows. F4 on my keyboard. Multiplied by 180 days, which is what we have here, payment day count. I'm going to also phrase it because I'll be needing for the rest of the column. F4 on my keyboard. Then divided by the 360 day count. Also, I'm going to press the F4 key to freeze or make this cell an absolute cell reference. Press F4 on your keyboard and we'll have that in place. All right. Great. So I have this amount as my interest payment. So this interest payment, like I mentioned, is part of the payment that you've calculated using the PMT formula. All right. So you expect to have a payment of 772 million, and out of which 381 relates to interest payment. Right, I can come and just type it in full interest payment, and this relates to principal payments. All right. So to determine the principal payment, we said is the payment amount, which is determined by the PMT formula, less the interest. So equals to 772 less 381. All right. So out of this 772, 390 relates to the principal portion, and the ending balance is the beginning balance less the principal, because that's what you have to repay to pay down on the loan, or for the bond issuer to fully pay down on the loan. So you bring in your beginning balance, which is your 4850 minus the principal payment of 390. Okay. So this is outstanding as at the first payment date of 5th of September 2018. So I can then drag this down. This then gives me the payment for the next period. So to calculate my interest, because I've frozen the interest rate, the 180 days and the 360 days, I can easily drag down for the rest of the period. So I've calculated the next interest payment date. And of course, the principal portion is then let me do it a step at a time. So it's now 421. So you can see that as you're going down the period, you're paying higher principal. So you start with 390, now you've gone up to 421 principal repayment. All right. Then the interest is on the reducing balance, is reducing as you go down the payment period. Then our ending balance is simply the beginning balance less your principal repayment. All right. Then it gives you the next brought forward balance of 4038. Then of course we calculated our principal balance, and then our principal amount will then be 452, and I can drag this down, and I can drag my principal repayment down. All right. So you can see that the principal payment you pay at the start keeps increasing up until you pay the final principal amount, and then the principal balance turns down to 0. To be sure that you've actually fully repaid the loan, you can easily also sum all of your principal repayments, and it gives you exactly the amount of your beginning balance of your initial principal. So this shows you that what you have invested in the bond as a bondholder has been fully repaid, both in principal and in interest. So the total interest for this particular bond was 2.1 billion, while the interest is 2.1 billion, and principal repayment is 4.8. Then total repayment in terms of principal and interest is 6.9 billion. So which means that it will cost the bond issuer 6.9 million to borrow 4.850 from a bond holder. All right. Again, I will encourage you to leave your comments on what you want to see in the next video. So we'll come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. See you at my next video, and bye.